Welcome to the Uniquely Healthy podcast. I'm your host, Maryannauger, or you can call me Marianne. I'm a weight-inclusive, anti-diet certified personal trainer, online coach, fitness instructor, and nutrition coach. I want to help you find your unique way of being healthy through self-care and by incorporating healthy habits. I hope this podcast episode helps you become uniquely healthy. So do you feel like you can't control yourself around food, especially during the holidays? These dinners can be a huge source of stress for a lot of people, and you might be afraid of overindulging or eating quote unquote too much of certain foods. In this episode, I'm going to give you some tips to help you deal with those holiday meals. But before we dive in, I want to point out that although I have a nutrition certification through Precision Nutrition, that I'm not a registered dietitian or a therapist, and that the information in this podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes only. So please consult with your doctor or an RD or a therapist if you are struggling with your relationship with food. And if you are struggling with your relationship with food, I have left some links in the description box or show notes wherever you're listening to this, just to help you out with some resources. And if you need any other help to find a professional or resources to help you out, just send me a message and I'll be happy to help you. So a few years ago during the holidays, we would go see some family, and my thoughts were consumed by my appearance and the food that was around me. It wouldn't help that before the dinner even started, or the brunch, or whatever kind of get together that involved food, it didn't matter what it was. If I gave myself some restrictions from the get-go, like I would tell myself, okay, well, I'm going to try to eat quote unquote good or quote unquote clean, and I'm not going to eat any of those foods, and I would list a certain amount of foods. It would make the supper so, what's the word? Just like consumed by food. And I didn't even have the space in my mind to focus and enjoy time with friends and family because I was so focused on trying not to eat whatever chocolate was in front of me. So all my thoughts were about that. And then after like a few hours, let's say, I would finally like give in and have some chocolate. And then I'd be like, oh man, well, I already messed this up, so I might as well just say fuck it and just keep eating whatever I want. And then I would just overdo it, and I would just eat absolutely everything until I felt like stuffed and not feeling good at all. And I probably could have like just avoided that if I just told myself that I could have whatever I wanted in the first place. So the goal with this episode is just to kind of help you not go through that, basically. It's been the last couple of years, I've been able to just eat what I want, listening to my body, and I've been able to spend time with my friends and family and actually enjoy their presence and actually remember the meal and like enjoy it. And that's what I want for you. So for the first tip, I wrote allowing myself or yourself all the food I want. So allowing myself all the food I want so that you can avoid feeling restricted. Because if you tell yourself you can't have the chocolate, the pizza, the gravy, whatever food you're telling yourself you can't have, then your thoughts are probably going to be very consumed with that food. You can tell yourself that you can enjoy as much of the food as you want. So you can give yourself unconditional permission to eat. And you can tell yourself that you can have the food whenever you want, so you don't have to eat it all now. So the good thing, wow, I struggled with that one. So the good thing about being allowed to eat whatever you want is that you can have it whenever you want. So that means that during that meal, you don't have to eat as much as you can of it because you're allowed to have it tomorrow. You're allowed to have it for breakfast if you want, you know? So that means that during the meal, hopefully by telling yourself that you can have the food whenever you want, that you can enjoy the food in the quantities that will make you feel good and the quantities that you want. My other tip would be to not attend those events famished. So when you, let's say, skip breakfast or skip lunch because you know you're going to eat more for supper because you have a family gathering or something, you tend to arrive there already super hungry. And then as soon as you start eating, you just want to eat everything because your body is just like, wow, just give me the food. I am super hungry. Just give me everything. Whereas if you get there and you feel just like moderately hungry and you had a snack before, and this is not a dieting tactic as in later, it's literally just making sure you don't have, you're not like, your stomach's not empty, you know, you go there and then you're just a good amount of hungry and you can enjoy the food and enjoy talking to people, and you're not just focused on trying to satisfy your hunger, basically. Another tip would be to listen to your hunger cues. So I want to start off by saying that you are allowed to eat past fullness. It's okay. I know that's a dieting thing where you're not allowed to eat past fullness, and that's not true. You are allowed, and it's normal during these kinds of events to eat past fullness. You just have to think about how it'll make you feel and make a conscious decision. So when I eat past fullness, if it's just a little bit, you know, I don't feel too bad, you know, it's fine. But if I eat very past fullness, then I don't feel good and I feel sluggish and I feel tired and I just want to take a nap. Or sometimes, you know, you eat a little bit too much that your stomach hurts. Well, I don't want to feel that way personally. So when I go to these types of events or just in everyday life, I just make a decision out of self-care and self-love or self-respect that I'll just eat, you know, in a little bit past fullness if that's what I want, or maybe just to fullness. You know, it depends on the day and how I feel and the food that's there and what I want, and all the different factors come in play here. But I usually make the decision consciously that I don't want to eat to an extreme past fullness because it won't make me feel good. So I don't feel restricted. I'm just choosing to do that because that's what will make me feel the best and will make me able to enjoy the time with my loved ones. And you can also trust your body to tell you when you've had enough. So your body is smart. If you take some time to check in with yourself throughout the meal, you can usually gauge and see how full you are. However, I'd like to point out that if you've been dieting, those signals are a little bit less clear. And if you've been eating very little calories, for example, your body's kind of like survival mode kind of takes over. So you're just focusing on like getting some food in because your body's trying to get ready for like the next famine, for example, because it doesn't really know the difference between dieting and eating very low calorie and like a famine. So if you've been dieting, please be careful with this. You can also contact a professional if you can to help you kind of get through those things and kind of figure out your hunger signals. But if you haven't been really dieting or just lightly dieting, then your body, you can trust your body to tell you when you've had enough food or if you need more. But this takes a little bit of practice, so don't be too hard on yourself if you don't get it right away. Just make sure to like check in with yourself, take a few breaths and try to see how full am I? Do I still want food? Does it still taste good? Because, you know, like the first few bites of food taste really good when you're hungry, but then the more you eat, the less like delicious it gets, if that makes sense. So if you can like pay attention to those things, then you'll be able to kind of gauge where you are. And if you're looking for more information on that, I could record another podcast episode on it. But there's also a lot of information on that in the Intuitive Eating book by Elise Resch and Evelyn Tribole. My last tip would be to be self-compassionate with yourself. You guys are probably tired of hearing me say that because I mention it so often, but I think it's something that we don't do enough, and we're so hard on ourselves. And I think it's time to kind of shift that and just be kind to ourselves. So just a quick reminder that there's no good or bad food, and you're allowed to eat whatever you want in the quantities you want. However, if you end up eating like more than what you originally thought, or you have negative feelings towards yourself, so let's say you were like, oh, I don't really want to eat past like fullness because it won't make me feel good, but you end up doing it anyways, and you start getting those feelings of guilt or shame around the food you ate, your body. Try to talk to yourself like you would talk to a friend. And it sounds really easy to say and a lot harder to do, but I would really encourage you to try it. So would you get mad at your friend or allow them to like drown in guilt for eating too much or eating certain foods? And when I say too much, I just like, it's quote unquote, because there's too much can mean something different for everyone. So just to make that clear. But would you get mad at your friends or loved ones or anyone for eating quote unquote too much, or all that stuff? Probably not. So why would you be mad at yourself, right? So if that happens, you can pause, take some deep breaths, and try to speak kindly to yourself. And I know that can be very hard, especially if all your thoughts, or every time you talk about yourself or to yourself, it's always negative, and it's really hard to turn it into a positive. So I'll kind of give you an example to help you shift that. So I'll give you an example of a negative thing you can tell yourself, how you can turn it into a neutral statement, and how to turn it into a positive statement. So hopefully that'll help you kind of do that shift. It takes a little bit of practice, but hopefully you can start implementing it during the holidays. And you can also journal. And if you need, you can also, like, you probably won't bring your journal to a family dinner. I mean, you can if you want, but if you aren't bringing it with you, you can open the notes in your phone and write down the negative thing you told about yourself, and then try to shift it to a more neutral or positive. So sometimes it might be hard to do it just like on the spot, but if you write it down and think about it, and the more you do that, the more it'll become a natural thing. So let's go with this example. So you had a plan to you kind of just wanted to enjoy the food, but you didn't want to eat too much because you didn't want to feel sluggish. So you didn't want to eat past like a certain amount of fullness, but you ended up doing it, and you were feeling shame and guilt and all that stuff around it. So you're telling yourself, oh, I overdid it again. I can never control myself around these get-togethers. I suck. Right? Does that sound like kind of something that you might say to yourself? And if not, awesome. That's really good. So a way that you can turn this around into a neutral thing would be to say, I ate past fullness and I feel uncomfortable. That's it. It's a fact. So it's not positive, negative. It's just, this is what happened. Then the positive one would be, I ate a little bit above comfortable fullness. It happens to everyone. Next time I'll make sure to eat before so that I don't get there famished. So you're showing yourself some compassion. Well, first off, you're saying, I ate a bit above comfortable fullness. So you're kind of saying your fact there. Then you're being compassionate with yourself. You're saying it happens to everyone. And then you're kind of like making a mental note that next time you'll make sure to eat before so that it doesn't happen. You don't get into that situation because it doesn't make you feel good. So you're kind of adding that little self-care in there. So like I said, these things take a little bit of practice, and you can always send me a message if you have a hard time with this, and I would love to help you out. So this is the end of the episode. I hope these tips will help you deal with the holiday dinners or holiday meals and manage them and not feel overwhelmed. And hopefully you'll be able to actually spend time with your friends and family. I know that with COVID that may not happen, but if you do have like a virtual meal or in future years, if you do end up eating with family, and honestly, you can use these tips in any situation where you're out eating with friends or family or coworkers, or just even, eating in general. So I hope these tips kind of help you. But again, if you need extra help with your relationship with food, make sure to contact a professional, and you can always message me if you are trying to look for a resource, someone to contact, and I would love to help you out. So if you did enjoy this episode, please make sure to give it a 5-star review on iTunes. It really helps me out. And if you're on YouTube, please make sure to subscribe and to give this video a big thumbs up. It helps so much. And before I leave you, I also want to mention that in the last episode, I talked about my Patreon, and I mentioned some of my prices and what I offer in each tier. I did make some changes to the prices and what I offer in those tiers. So if you want to look at that and see what changes I made, you can go online at patreon.com/Maryannauger. I will leave the link also in the description box and the show notes so that you can go there if you want. And last thing, I have a lot of little notes. Last thing, I also want to mention that I offer online coaching to help you implement self-care and healthy habits, like things like, if you want to meditate more, journal, drink more water, eating more veggies, move your body, if you want to follow more a workout program, or if you're more into joyful movement and don't want to follow a program, both are okay. And so if you're interested, you can click in the link in the show notes or the description box to apply for coaching, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. So thank you so much for listening or watching if you're on YouTube, and I appreciate you so, so, so much. And yeah, I just love you so much, and I can't wait to see you in a future episode. Bye.